Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Untitled Reviews. This being a show where it's about TV shows that are dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Kung Fu. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Very appropriate episode titled called Attachment. Obviously, we have everything between Henry and Nikki, which getting super nasty, hooking up in the library is like, okay. And even Althea kind of looking like, really? Library? Okay, wow. I'm impressed, honestly. You know? But, yeah, and I love the whole thing of them opening up the library and everything. And it's like, right, first trying to be like, oh, everything's fine. Like, I don't think anyone's going to notice that we did. And then there's a lady, as they're walking away, she's smiling at them and winks because everybody knows what you were doing. They knew you were in there doing nasty. It's like, I love it. But obviously, they're still trying to figure out the lyrics to Mei Shi's song about that will lead them to the forge. Henry has a friend. He basically runs the lyrics through an algorithm of hers to basically see, like, if no matter what language it's in, if there is, if it's somewhere out there on the internet, they'll find it. And ultimately, they end up finding out it's actually connected to a K-pop star named Simon, which also, like, Nikki brought up something interesting. It's like, oh, yeah, because, like, Henry's like, yo, what's up with a Chinese dude singing, Korean pop? And I'm like, oh, she was basically saying it's because he's bilingual. Being bilingual means you can hit two different markets, I guess, both the Chinese market as well as the Korean market in that regard. I'm like, that's so interesting. I'm not well versed in the Korean pop world, so I don't know. I wonder, is that harder to do if you're, like, not Korean? Would it be easier, or is it actually easier because you're bilingual, because it makes you kind of a little, like, what we can maybe in that circle makes you kind of quote unquote exotic to a certain extent. Like, that's what I'm curious about. Like, because it makes you stand out more of, like, oh, it makes you even more unique. I don't know. I'm getting too caught up in it, which is interesting. Like, when you actually, like, learning the little bits I've learned about the K-pop industry, it's interesting. Sad in certain regards when you really get into the nitty-gritty of just, like, everything that goes into it. It's a whole thing. I'm not here to kind of break that down, but it's just interesting when you read up and hear a lot of stuff about the Korean, the K-pop, music business. But nevertheless, so obviously for Nikki and Henry, they've got to find a way to talk to Simon. And it's like, luckily he's going to be doing a show in Vegas, so they hit up Vegas, which once again, them being like, it's new and everything, so it's like, it's that new couple energy. No. NRE, new relationship energy, I should say. Yeah, that's better. That's a better term to use. But essentially, it's like, yeah, they're like humping like jackrabbits, because it's like, right, because like it's like $79 for the room, but it's like, don't worry about it. Like, the hotels and stuff make most of their money off the, like, the gambling and the casino and stuff like that. But it's like, don't worry about it. We're not gonna be leaving the room anyway. I'm like, wow, you guys are going to be going at it like jackrabbits, But I love the whole thing of, like, right, we gotta go meet with Simon, and it's like, hey, we'll buy our tickets all for you. And it's like, no, these tickets are priceless. If basically, like, if you were real fans, you would know that. Like, obviously, like, you're not real fans or whatever. So they end up stealing some other. I love that whole thing of, like, oh my God, is that Simon? And then, like, seeing Henry, like, oh my God, Simon, we love you. Oh, actually, sorry, that's just a cutout. And end up stealing those girls' tickets. To be fair, they were kind of debashed, cut in the line and stuff like that. So it's just morally there to make you feel at least a little bit better about stealing their tickets. It's like, it's okay. I mean, to be fair, though, in the mission to save the world, stop being from becoming a thing and everything. So it's like, it works out. So I love that. They try to talk to Simon initially, but he doesn't want to believe them. And I thought that was so interesting. Because Nikki didn't know the truth about her family situation, so it made you wonder whether Simon was in the same boat. But it seemed like during the conversation, some of what they were saying was still resonating, even though he was like, no, it's a legend, it's fairy tale, it doesn't matter. But the moment, like, they start talking about family guardians and stuff like that, he's just like, some of it resonated. So the way Jilan puts it later on, it's like, right, you do believe it. Whether he fully believed in all of it, some of it was a myth, but some of it is just you can't help but believe in to some extent because he was kind of trained in all of that, as we find out later on. But because Jilan had already been in contact, because we learned, was it last episode, Jilan was like, yeah, she was working on her way of finding the meteor hammer, which we ultimately ended up finding out what it was. I wasn't expecting, I was like, is it actually going, because I'm thinking video game wise, like it's legitimately a hammer. Never crossed my mind to be like, oh, it's a morning star. Like, I was actually surprised by that. I was like, oh, because the morning, yeah, because the morning star is on, yeah, it's basically a mace, but except like the mace part of it is on a chain and everything like that. But I'm like, I wasn't expecting, I mean, that makes more sense. Like I said, I was legitimately thinking it was going to be a hammer, but it's like, no, it's a morning star, which I think fits more aesthetically with all the other weapons, which we do get some of the looks at them. Like there's another sword, but I think it's probably a shorter sword than the first sword. Then there's also like a crossbow, and it's like, huh. Because we haven't really had an opportunity to really look at all 8 weapons. I'm sure going forward we'll get a better look at everything. But and speaking of the 8 weapons, obviously Jilan, with Kerwin's help, breaks into his dad's vault to get the weapons. Had to go a little Catherine Zeta-Jones. What's the movie? Entrapment. Once again, it feels so weird because like that's the only thing I know about that movie. Like once again, I could be mistaking the title, but it's the one thing I always kind of like. Well, I always also associate her with Zorro. But it's one of those things where it's like I only know because of that scene. I remember from a young age, people referencing the scene of like her in the skin tight suit, the black, thief suit, bending and getting around lasers. Like that's like one of the I think that's like one of the go-to like pop culture zeitgeist examples of that. That might have been like one. Probably wasn't the earliest one, but it's probably the one that kind of pops in most people's minds, and that's what, like I said, if it is the movie Entrapment, which it might not be, I think that's the only thing I know about that movie is that particular scene. Like I said, it might not, because it might even, like I said, I don't think it's that movie. I think it's a different movie, but I think it's the one with Sean Connery in it, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to a whole tangent. It just reminded me of that. So she managed to get the weapon. So it's like, wow, you guys now you have 7 weapons. Now you're just missing the meteor hammer. But Jilan shows up to get the hammer, and obviously Simon doesn't want to give it over willingly because she's like, no, we're willing to pay it. We're not going to kill you. It's like, I'm going to find that a little hard to believe when you just so casually kill 2 people in front of me, And it's not like, oh, Jilan did it. Like, I think Kerwin's like, he's gotten a lot more comfortable with killing people now. It's like, he killed his first person last episode, and now it's like, nah, let me do it again, So, without any hesitation at all. So, that's kind of sad that he's getting so used to it. But, their goal is so close in reach. But, your boy, Simon, like, he's said he's been training since he was 5. You saw, once again, just like the badassness of like swirling it around his neck and everything. It's like, yo, giving Jilan a run for her money. He's like, you are strong, but this weapon's stronger. But sadly, it's the thing of like, Jilan has been prepared for this. This is kind of like, because she kind of wants it more, like she kind of needs it more to a certain extent. So she needs all this to come together so she can write her destiny in her own way. Because her life has kind of been out of her own control for so long, she's trying to take control of it, trying to take control of her destiny. So she wants to feel powerful and not that scared little girl whose sister abandoned her after accidentally killing their father. Like, she doesn't want to feel like that. She doesn't want to be that little girl anymore in her mind. I think she still kind of is. So she's trying to fight against that so much. But luckily, Nikki and Henry show back up, which the moment Kerwin meets up with him, I'm like, whoa, are we about to get it? We get it. It's only for like a little, it's only like for a little bit, but I was like, hallway fights. Once again, Daredevil got me excited about like, oh, like, it's one of, I'm sure there's other things too, but now it's like Daredevil is one of your minds where it's like anytime you're watching Daredevil, you're like, okay, we about to get another hallway fight. Hell yes, there was a hallway fight, there was a stairway fight, there was the hallway down a prison cell block, stuff like that. So there's actually, there's multiple like hallway fights, but kind of that structure. So regardless, tangents and all that aside, also, once again, we've never actually seen Kerwin actually fight. He can easily hold his own against Henry and Nikki. He was fighting both of them at the same time in a hallway and still was able to kind of hold his own. But luckily, Nikki joined up with Simon. That felt so like, hell yeah, when she like kicks Jilan in the face. You're like, yeah, a little payback for where she left you off at. But still, once again, like, Nikki's not as well trained as Yulon is. So even with Simon, which, you know, it's like, he's like, I got your back, they're doing your thing. And they ended up catching her off guard, though. But then Kerwin showed up with Henry, because it's like, right. I guess it's also from the fact is that they're younger too. Like, Yulon and Kerwin are older, most likely. So it's like a thing of like, right, they're more well trained because they've had, I mean, probably their family their circumstances led to that. Like, Kerwin having the father he did, like, always having to prove himself, probably came with martial arts training. Like, right, like, I need to be stronger to prove myself. Probably the rest of his siblings are like that too. They're probably all martially trained in martial arts as well. Could be mistaken, but in the moment that she, you know, Nikki was worried about Henry, is all it took for Yulon to get the advantage and take the Morning Star, and Simon trying to fight back ends up catching it to the chest, ends up dying from it, you know, sadly. And Yulon and Kerwin walk away like it's nothing. It's like, you know, trying to make it seem like, you know, at first they're like, no, I don't want to spill. I don't know. I don't believe Yulon when she said, like, no, I wasn't going to kill you. I'm just going to give you the money and bounce. But I'm like, no, like, the fact is, you probably would have killed him just to make sure he wouldn't try to come after the weapon at some point later on. I'm sure that is the case, but maybe in her mind she's justifying that by being like, no, like, I legitimately gave him an option, and if he had actually taken the money, I would have left him alone. I don't know. Everyone else associated with this who's ever helped her, she's made sure they're dead. Like, what was the doctor who had information about the weapons? She made sure to kill him because she didn't want that information falling into anyone else's hands. So, I don't know. But, obviously, you know, Nikki blames herself for it, you know. Because in that one moment, that hesitation is what gave Yulon a chance. And obviously, you know, for her, it's like, but there's a sad part of her that's like, I'm kind of relieved because it wasn't you. Like, she wouldn't know what to do if something had happened to Henry, you know, so. But ultimately, Simon did give them a lead about basically the song is basically a story told from like the sword's perspective. So I was like, how's that going to help them? They don't have the sword. I completely forgot. Right, they do have the scabbard though, so they were able to use that, like shooting a light through it, and they ended up finding a map, which is the same thing that Simon has tattooed on his arm. We found out that's how Yulon actually found him. It's like the tattoo on his arm, because he did a Rolling Stone spread, and that constellation is connected to all of this. So it's like that's how Yulon found out about him. So she found out about it in a very less roundabout way than Henry and Nikki, but it gives him a map to the forge, which once again, Yulon and Kerwin aren't aware they need the forge. They're probably just going to try have all the weapons, but it's like it's not going to work. So they have that advantage. Well, the fact is, Yulon knows she doesn't have the scabbard, and like it is a thing that she does need it. I think information came up earlier in the series that she knows that now, like, I think it was revealed she knows she needs the scabbard, so she knows she's going to have to come after Nikki to get it anyway, because it's like, she's probably thinking that's going to be the final piece when technically it is, because it's the final piece. Well, I think they only technically need the sword. I don't know if they would need the scabbard too. Like, I feel like they are one and the same, so you need both of them for the weapon to technically be complete. So I think even with all 8 weapons, the sword isn't really complete. Plus, I think maybe also the fact that I'm sure that won't be an effect. I'm sure that has its own effect. Is the fact is that Nikki is supposed to be the one to have it because it's her family situation, but I'm sure the weapons can be in anyone's hands, but I'm sure like it's special in Nikki's, especially considering like it got burned into Nikki's hands, which I guess at the time, because she wasn't aware of her destiny, like her destiny was she wasn't on the path of her destiny, so it burned her because you're not the rightful person for it. But now that she's on the right path, that she's accepting her destiny, she knows who she's supposed to be. Maybe now she can actually get, you know, without the burns and everything like she got last time. So that's just stuff that's crossing my mind. Other than that, we do have, like, once again, the conversation of attachment. Mei Lee and Jin have decided that they're going to shut down the restaurant because how much rent is costing them. Like, it's just not feasible. They would never be able to keep up with how much money they need to kind of pay off. Like, they were planning all these redesigns and stuff like that for the restaurant changes last episode, but now it's like, no, let's take this time to wind down with the restaurant, find a way to pay off our debts, and then in a couple years we can actually take a vacation. Nothing crazy or extravagant, you know, something a little more local, but we get to finally take a break, you know? And Nikki and Althea showed their support, but Ryan doesn't. He's kind of deflecting his issues with Joe onto them because it's like, right, it's like, oh, you guys are just going to give up? Maybe you shouldn't just be so quick to give up. I can't believe the entire family's willing. Because for him, he kind of feels like Joe gave up on the relationship. Like, we were just in the early stages of our relationship. And yes, I got it. You got this great job opportunity, but you kind of left me high and dry. You know, also, but to be fair, I don't think Ryan gave him a chance to talk. Like, they didn't have a chance to talk it out. Like, when they met last episode, like, when Joe broke the news to him, like, after they visited the restaurant, I don't know if they talked after that, because I think like it was a couple days later when Joe ended up leaving. I mean, I think at this point in time it's even been like a week or so since he left. I think he said like, yeah, he left last week or something like that. So I don't know how, before Joe left, whether they ended up talking or not. You would hope, but I think that's where probably a lot of that resentment comes from too. And so Ryan ends up opening up and talking to Althea because she kind of figured this wasn't just about their family restaurant. And so the reason why it hits him so hard is because for him, it's like with Joe, he actually started thinking about stuff he'd never thought about before, like actually having a family, kids and stuff like that. Even to the point he's like, I want what mom and dad have, like something long lasting like that. And because Joe made him feel like, I think it was his first, like being just openly gay, you know, being himself, you know, especially open, because it was always kind of like a weird touchy subject with his parents, but now it's like, nah, because it also complicated things too, because like mom and dad loved him, and so they just, but I think it's a conversation I've recently, like sadly, like some people are in your life just for a season, and I think sadly Joe was just in his life, you know, to kind of, I mean, I hope it doesn't turn into a complicated thing where like Joe comes back later on, whether it's just because the job situation doesn't pan out, he starts missing Ryan and comes back. Like, I hope it doesn't turn into that, because that would be heartbreaking, because it's like, right, you made your choice and now come, you know, that could be such a sticky situation. I don't know. But I think it was just a thing of like, right, I think Ryan is ready to kind of push forward, because even Althea's like, yeah, imagine being where we are right now, like being in a position to like invite your boyfriend over to meet mom and dad and having them be so upfront to be like, hey, are you coming to Althea's wedding? Like, you wouldn't have even imagined that months ago, and like showing like, it's like, yeah, see how much stronger you've become, you know? So I think it was a beautiful moment for like, I think Ryan's development, but also like his bond, because it's the main conversation has always been Ryan and Nikki's relationship, and it was nice kind of this being a like, well, because they've all kind of like their relationships as siblings all across the board have gotten better over the, you know, since Nikki came back and everything. But Ryan's the one that convinced his parents not to give up. It's like, whatever your choice is going to be, I'll support it, but I think you should kind of go out on your own terms, because it is a thing of like, right, since you guys opened this restaurant, you've always had to kind of cater to other people, whether it's like, hey, you had to put yourself in a box, you had to be very authentically Chinese food wise, so that locals would be accepting of it, but it couldn't be too authentic, because if it was, it would scare away tourists and stuff like that. So it's like, right, you were kind of in a box. Then the whole MSG thing, I even love Jim making a joke about, like, there was a particular dish, he's like, yeah, that never was the same after the whole MSG. But it's like, right, you've always had to adapt to what other people want. It's like, this is a situation where it's like, it might not work out, but at the very least, this is your opportunity to just be you, like, never having to change for anyone else. This is the opportunity just to be you guys, run the restaurant the way you want to, because I've seen how happy you were planning out what you wanted for the future of this restaurant. So make it 100% yours, not bending to what anyone else wants. Just do what you want, you know? And they're actually happy about it. They're going to keep the restaurant open for a few more months. They don't know how everything's going to work out, but they're willing to give it a try, you know? And Nikki, you know, telling Ryan, like, hey, you know, you can always talk to me. He's like, I know. And, you know, it's like seeing his family so happy and together like this. And then she gets a visit from Pei Ling. You know, it's like, right, look what you did. And it's like, no, my family did all the healing on their own. And she's like, well, you kind of pushed them in the right direction. But now that you know where the forge is, or at least heading in the right direction towards it, and now that all 8 weapons have been collected, you know what's coming next. You're going to have to leave them again. And it's like, so sadly, Nikki's going to have to follow in her aunt's footsteps. Meiji stayed away from everyone because she didn't want to draw people into what was her circumstances. Like, she had to keep it, you know, a secret, and so no one knew about the forge and stuff like that. Nikki might have to do the same. Whatever the aftermath of this whole being gay situation is, no matter what the weapon situation is, whether the other weapons get destroyed or scattered, kind of very like Dragon Ball, like they just get scattered after the fact, or whether she just takes the sword, or once again, like I said, like if they all forge into one weapon and Nikki takes that weapon, has to go in hiding so no one else can get it, like she will have to separate herself, not just from her family, probably Henry too, like her entire life that she went through the trouble of rebuilding again, she's going to have to leave it all behind, because I think that's why this episode is also important in that regard of attachments, because her aunt had to cut all ties to everyone, you know, and could never get close to anyone else, even that dude that cared about her. It's like, right. Could we also, there's actually one more answer we still never found out. Who buried Meiji? Like, who buried her? Like, because she wasn't alone. So who was it? We still don't have an answer to that. So maybe that'll come up at the end of the season. But, you know, to embrace her destiny and everything would mean having to leave her family again. And because it would mean protecting not only her, but the world. Because, once again, like, if it is all in one weapon, or whether it's just her taking the sword, making sure that the weapon, or maybe it's just straight up, yeah, I'm assuming she's going to walk away with something at the end of this. Like I said, whether it's just a sword or whether it's a combination of all the weapons in one, she's walking away with it and having to go into secret to protect it. I think at the end she might decide to stick around her family, which might be an issue going forward, because that might be a thing of, right, she decides to stick around because I'm not going to leave my family again no matter what, and that might end up inadvertently drawing more danger towards them. We'll see how it ultimately plays out, because I'm really curious with what they've kind of set up in this regard. There's only 2 episodes left in this season, so it's going to be interesting to see how ultimately this all ends up playing out. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.